Hello YouTube, it's RCB and I'm back with another review video, and I will be reviewing the 16th movie I've seen this year, The House with a Clock in Its Walls. Now, a lot of my initial appeal to see this movie was I just wanted to see something that had Jack Black and Cate Blanchett in it because, come on. When are you ever going to see those two work together again? And in the end, I would say that it's a good movie. It's not a great movie. It doesn't really ever cross the threshold into being anything beyond a child's movie to me. But that's not to say that there aren't some really great things about it. One of the standout performances in this movie is Owen Vaccaro, who plays the young kid, Louis Barnevelt, the main character. I was just surprised and quite frankly impressed with a lot of what he was able to do, because you see so much in this movie, and you know these actors are acting to nothing because this has to be CGI, and especially for a young kid, Owen Vaccaro did a phenomenal job interacting with everything that he had to interact with in terms of the magic and the house itself, and it's impressive because you know this kid had to put up with a lot. And he also has, really, of any of them, the most fleshed out character of them. Like, you get aspects of Jonathan Barnevelt, who Jack Black plays, and his neighbor Florence Zimmerman, played by Cate Blanchett. You get aspects of them, and you do get to understand their stories, but they're not fleshed out and developed a whole lot the way Lewis's story is fleshed out. And it's really enjoyable because he does go from being this quiet, nerdy guy who's not really confident in himself to really learning how to, through magic, embrace himself, embrace who he is as a person, and have a lot more confidence in himself. And it was really fun to get to watch that. Now, in terms of the overall story, it does suffer in a couple places. There are some points where it really is dragging, and I am not as invested in it. Like, at the beginning, I was actually kind of impressed because they breezed over a lot of backstory for the boy and the two neighbors going into this, and I was thinking, oh, so they just want to build to telling the story. They don't want to waste time. They figure we're smart enough as an audience to be able to figure out a lot of this stuff, and I was enjoying that. But then it just never felt like that got paid off, because it just slowed down at times. You get bogged down in these things where you can kind of predict where it's going to go if you've seen enough films, which is, if you've seen 10 films, you can pretty much predict where a lot of this stuff is going to go. And overall, it's charming at times, but it's not enough to really grip you and make you want to come back and see it more than once. And there are a couple things for that. Like, for me personally, I couldn't get past this opening scene where Lewis is asking his Uncle Jonathan, so I can't have dessert before dinner because that's the way it was here. And his uncle's just like, well, there are no rules about how you eat here. You can eat dessert all the time. And they have these massive cookies that the neighbor, Florence Zimmerman, makes. And there were times I'm just sitting in this movie when it's lulling me into these points of not really wanting to pay attention. I'm just thinking, I want one of those cookies. And it's good that they made something that you want, but it's distracting from the story you're trying to tell. And as far as the villains of this story go, the ramp up to revealing what actually was going to happen was really kind of anticlimactic by the time it came around. Like, the plot that the two villains, Isaac and Selena Izzard, are wanting to do is they created this clock in the house that's going to turn back time so that they can start the human race over, because the human race is flawed. And it's interesting, but the whole way they go about it is just so by the books, predictable, not really engaging. And I have to say, in regards to the female villain, Selena Izzard, what an absolute disservice to the actress playing her, because she's played by Renee Elise Goldsberry, largely known for originating the role of Angelica Schuyler in Hamilton on Broadway. And she is capable, by far of more than this script is given her, but I get it, you gotta build up your street cred in the film, it doesn't carry over to theater, but such an underserved character that really could have been fleshed out more, aside from who they got to play her. And it's really interesting because this movie does go in and out at times of the children's movie genre and the horror movie genre, which you'd expect, given that it's directed by Eli Roth. This is his first venture outside of horror to do a children's film. And in a lot of ways, he created a really interesting world. The visuals of the magic are really fun, really engaging. It's not bogged down in the Harry Potter style of magic. It defines itself really well outside of established ways of magic, but it does ride the line between generic magic and having its own style. So it does toe the line there. But there are also some points where when I thought, this is a children's movie, why is this as prevalent? Because there are some times with the dangers that Lewis and Jonathan and Florence are facing that they are kind of intense, I would think, for a children's movie. But the most intense thing is when Isaac Izzard is talking about his backstory and why he wants to do his evil plan, and he talks about meeting the demon Hazazel, and Hazazel looks straight up out of a horror film, and I'm watching this scene unfold, and it's just, what? This is a kid's movie? Really? You're putting that in there? So tonally, I feel like it struggled sometimes to really stay within the established world of, not so much the established world, but the established tone from the get-go of the film. But overall, it's a charming film. Some of you may like it more than me, and some of you may like it less than me, but overall, it's a decent film, and I would be more than willing to say you should check it out for yourself. And when it comes to a rating on a scale of 1 to 5, I would give this a 2.5. Just because it's a good, enjoyable movie, but it doesn't really pass average. It doesn't pass into the great category. It's not something I'm going to want to revisit over and over again. And it just could have been executed a little better in a story aspect. Acting-wise, everyone was firing on all cylinders with the material they were given. I think the script could have been punched up a little bit more, and if it had just been punched up a little bit more flushed out, I think it would have been a really solid movie because it was well acted, well directed, great visual aesthetic. It just needed that little oomph from the writing and a little bit more consistency tonally throughout the film. But anyways, that's my review of The House with the Clock in Its Walls. If you want to see more videos from me, click the subscribe button down below and hit the bell to get notifications for when I put out my next videos. But until then, it's RCB, and I'll see you next time.